my husband blew up at our toddler. I had to step in. What happened next changed everything. Everything seemed fine that evening. My husband was playing on the floor with our toddler, he's just 2.5, and our baby. They were laughing, being silly, and for a moment, it felt peaceful. I was in the kitchen, cooking dinner, and listening to their giggles made me smile. But then, in just 1 second, everything changed. Our toddler picked up a little plastic cup and tossed it. It wasn't even hard, it was one of those playful, clumsy throws toddlers do without thinking. But it hit my husband in the eye. And just like that, he snapped. He went from laughing to boiling with rage. I turned around and saw his face, red, angry, and full of frustration. He yelled at our toddler so loudly, the entire room felt different. Cold. Heavy. Sharp. And our sweet little boy? He froze. Then dropped straight to the floor in fear. Like his tiny body just shut down. I immediately rushed in and said, "Stop yelling at him." And then, my husband turned the anger toward me. He started arguing, his voice still raised. "He has to learn," he snapped. "There has to be a consequence. You never let me discipline him." I was shaking. I was still holding a wooden spoon. The dinner was halfway cooked, but I felt like I was on fire inside. My body went into panic mode, you know that feeling when your chest gets tight, your hands go cold, and you want to disappear? I tried to stay calm and told him, if yelling is the only way you know how to discipline, then that's lazy. I didn't mean to call him lazy, I regret using that word. But I was trying to protect our son. And I needed him to stop. He stormed off. No more yelling, but the damage was already done. A few minutes later, as I stood there still trembling, he walked by and muttered, "Sorry I blew up at you earlier. I shouldn't have done that." He didn't even look at me. I didn't respond. I was still too scared, too overwhelmed, and honestly, I didn't know what to say. I knew that if we talked now, he'd just get defensive. That's what usually happens, he'd flip the conversation and make it about my reaction instead of his behavior. And then, the part that broke me the most happened. Our toddler walked up to me, this tiny little person who had just been screamed at, and said softly, "It's okay, Mommy." He hugged me. He was comforting me. Then he walked over to his dad and told him, "I love you." This child, just 2 years old, was trying to hold us together. It was like he believed it was his job to keep the peace in the house. Like he felt responsible for fixing the emotions of 2 grown adults. That's when my heart shattered. I had already been trying so hard this whole week, doing extra chores, being more loving, more patient, hoping it would ease my husband's mood. But in the end, it didn't matter. He still exploded. And once again, I was left holding the emotional pieces while he got to lose control. And the truth is, right now, our home doesn't feel safe. Not for me. Not for our kids. But then, something unexpected happened. Later that night, I was sitting alone in our room, just thinking everything through, when my husband came in. This time, he looked me in the eyes. And he said, "I'm really sorry for the way I exploded earlier. I shouldn't have yelled at our son, and I shouldn't have turned on you. You were just trying to help." He didn't defend himself. He didn't shift blame. He looked ashamed. And sorry. He even apologized to our toddler, kneeling down to his level, and told him, "Daddy was wrong to yell. I'm really sorry, and I'll try really hard not to do that again." For the first time in a long time, it felt like he actually meant it. And now, I'm sitting here wondering, can we really change this? Can we become the kind of parents who protect our kids emotionally, even when we're overwhelmed? Can we learn to handle anger without turning our home into a battlefield? I want to believe it's possible. I want to believe that maybe, this time, something will be different. The next morning, I woke up early. My husband was still asleep. The house was quiet, and for a few peaceful moments, it felt like the storm had passed. But I wasn't at peace. Not really. Because even though he apologized, even though he looked sorry, the question kept spinning in my mind. What if it happens again? What if next time, it's worse? What if one day, our child stops running toward us after being hurt, and starts pulling away? That fear sat heavy on my chest. When he woke up, things were calm. Too calm, maybe. He made breakfast like nothing had happened. We didn't talk much. But when he kissed our toddler on the forehead and said, "I love you," I saw a flicker of guilt in his eyes. Later that day, when the kids were napping, I knew we had to talk. Not argue. Talk. I sat across from him, my hands cold but my voice steady. I said, thank you for apologizing last night. I know that wasn't easy. He nodded quietly. Then I said, but I need you to understand something. Our son was scared. Not just surprised, terrified. He shut down. He dropped to the floor like he was trying to disappear. That can't happen again. He looked down. I could see his jaw clench, like he wanted to say something but stopped himself. I get overwhelmed, he finally said. Sometimes I just react. I'm tired. I'm stressed. And I don't know what else to do. I didn't snap back. I didn't throw his words in his face. I just said. I get overwhelmed too. I'm tired too. But we can't make our child the target of our stress. He's learning from us. Right now, he's learning that it's his job to keep us from exploding. That's not fair to him. And for once, he listened. Really listened. We talked for almost an hour, quietly, honestly. No yelling. No blaming. Just two parents trying to figure out how to do better. We agreed on some things. No yelling. Period. If he feels like he's about to lose it, he needs to walk away, breathe, step outside, anything. We parent as a team. No more, you don't let me discipline arguments. We plan ahead how we want to respond to tough moments. And most importantly, we repair. Not just with each other, but with our kids. I told him, our toddler is still learning how the world works. He needs us to show him, not scare him. He nodded, and this time, I saw something in him I hadn't seen in a long time. That night, we sat on the couch with our toddler and watched a cartoon. Our baby was asleep, and for the first time in a while, the house didn't feel so heavy. At one point, our toddler climbed into my husband's lap, looked up at him, and said, "You're happy now?" My husband's eyes filled with tears. He hugged our son tightly and whispered, "I'm working on it, buddy." And in that moment, I knew this story isn't over. Because healing doesn't happen in a single night. It happens in the small moments, the quiet choices. The deep breaths instead of shouts. The conversations instead of silence. The hugs instead of distance. We're not perfect. Not even close. But we're trying. And that might be the most important part of all. About a week passed. Things had been better. Not perfect, but better. My husband was trying. I saw it. When our toddler spilled his juice, instead of yelling, he took a deep breath and calmly said, "Let's clean it up together." That small moment? It meant everything. But deep down, I still felt tense. Like I was waiting for the next blow up. The peace felt fragile, like a glass teacup we were trying not to drop. And then, it happened again. It was a Friday evening. Everyone was tired. The baby was fussy, the toddler had skipped his nap, and I was trying to get dinner on the table while bouncing a baby on my hip. Our toddler had a meltdown over something small. He wanted the red cup, not the blue one. You know, typical toddler stuff. But my husband was already frustrated. He had a long day at work. He asked our toddler 3 times to come sit down. No response. Just more whining. And then I saw it, the switch. That look in his eyes. The clenched fists. The tight jaw. His voice started rising, "Enough." I said, "Sit down. Right now." The baby startled in my arms. Our toddler froze, mid-cry. And me? My heart sank. It was happening again. But this time, something was different. I didn't yell. I didn't panic. I just walked over, stood between them, and quietly said, "You promised. Remember?" He looked at me, face red, breathing hard, but something in my calmness stopped him. I turned to our toddler and knelt down. "Hey, buddy. I know you're upset. You really wanted the red cup, huh?" He nodded, sniffing. "I get it. Sometimes it's hard when things don't go the way we want. But you're safe. We're not yelling. Let's take a deep breath together." And you know what? My husband joined us. He crouched down too. He whispered, "I'm sorry I raised my voice. That wasn't okay." Our toddler leaned into him. Just like that, we reset. Later that night, after the kids were in bed, I sat with my husband and said something simple but important. I don't expect perfection. I expect effort. What matters most is what we do after we mess up. He nodded slowly. "I was trying," he said. "I thought I had it under control. But sometimes it just builds up, and I snap. I told him, then we need to notice before the snap. When you feel it building, that's your signal to pause. Step away. Ask me for help. Let's be a team, not a war zone. And he agreed. We made a new plan. One that includes both of us. If either of us feels close to snapping, we say, I need a break. If things get too loud, the other steps in, not to fight, but to de-escalate. And after tough moments, we always repair with our kids. Always. Because our children are watching. They're learning from every single moment, not just the good ones. We're still figuring it out. Still making mistakes. But now? We have a system. A shared mission. A growing awareness that parenting is not about control, it's about connection. We're not the perfect family. But maybe, we're becoming a healing one. And that, to me, is worth everything. A few more weeks passed. And honestly? Things really did start to shift. The yelling stopped. Not completely, but my husband was catching himself more. He started saying I need a minute and stepping away. We were learning how to tag each other in, like teammates instead of opponents. But even with that progress, something kept tugging at me. It was like we were patching holes in a leaking boat, but the leak itself was still there. So one night, after the kids were asleep, I asked him something I'd been holding in for a long time. I said, where does that anger really come from? At first, he stayed quiet. Then he said something I'll never forget. When I was a kid, he said slowly, my dad used to yell all the time. Loud. Scary. He'd call us names, slam doors, sometimes worse. And we'd all just freeze. Like if we stayed perfectly still, maybe he'd stop. I didn't say a word. I just let him speak. He kept going. Back then, I used to promise myself I'd never be like him. Never. But now, sometimes, I hear myself and I think, I sound just like him. And I hate it. But it happens so fast. Like it's wired in me. That's when I realized. This wasn't just about our toddler. This was about his childhood too. I reached out, held his hand, and said gently, you're not your dad. You're here. You're trying. And that means something. We talked for a long time that night, about how generational trauma sneaks into parenting, even when we swear it won't. About how hard it is to unlearn what was normal in a household full of shouting and fear. We made a decision right then. This cycle? It ends with us. So we started reading together. Listening to parenting podcasts. Talking more about our own triggers, not just what the kids do, but what sets us off inside. And something amazing started happening. Our toddler began to feel the difference. He stopped flinching when we raised our voices, even a little. He started expressing emotions with words instead of meltdowns. One time, after his toy broke, he looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, I feel sad. Can you help me? And I thought, yes. This is it. This is the kind of home I always wanted to build. One built on trust, not fear. Connection, not control. Growth, not guilt. But this story isn't over yet. Because even when we change, life still tests us. Old habits creep back. Hard days return. And healing is rarely a straight path. The question is, when it happens again, what will we do then? Will we fall back into old patterns? Or keep choosing the harder path, the healing one? That's what I'm about to find out. It had been almost 2 months since the night my husband lost control, and everything started to change. We weren't perfect, not by a long shot. But we were more aware now. We talked, we paused, we repaired. And then came the test. It was a Sunday morning. One of those chaotic ones where everything goes wrong. The baby didn't sleep, the toddler was grumpy, and we were late for church. My husband couldn't find his shoes, and the toddler spilled juice all over the clean clothes I just folded. I could feel the pressure building like a ticking bomb. And then, it happened, our toddler, already cranky, picked up a toy and threw it hard. It flew across the room and narrowly missed the baby. Everything froze. I looked at my husband. He looked at our son. And I held my breath. He stood up slowly. Walked over. Bent down. And then, instead of yelling, he took a deep breath and said, that scared me. That could have hurt your sister. We don't throw things when we're mad. Let's talk about what's going on. Our toddler looked up at him, confused at first, then nodded. And for the first time, my husband didn't reach for fear, he reached for connection. That was the moment I knew. He had really changed. Not because he was suddenly a perfect parent, but because when things got hard, he chose differently. He chose us. He chose healing. He chose breaking the cycle he had grown up in, and building something new for our kids. Later that night, our toddler crawled into bed with us. He laid between us, snuggled in tight, and whispered, "I love our family." And I cried. Soft, quiet tears of relief. Of pride. Of hope. Because for so long, I felt like I was holding everything together alone. Now, we were holding it together. Families aren't perfect. Parents make mistakes. But what truly defines a home isn't how perfect things look on the outside, it's how we handle the messy parts. Do we explode, or pause? Do we run, or lean in? Do we repeat the pain we grew up with? Or become the ones who end it? We chose to end it. And if you're listening right now, and you've ever felt like the only one holding everything together, please hear this. You're not alone. You're strong. And your effort, your quiet, tireless effort, matters more than you know. If we can begin again, so can you. If we can choose healing over hurt, so can your family. It starts with one person saying, "No more." And sometimes, that one person is you. Speech balloon, let me know in the comments, have you ever had to stop a generational pattern in your family? What did it teach you? Headphone, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real stories that touch the heart and remind you, healing is always possible.